Now look, we're not professionals.
Welcome back to Without Shortcuts. We have a great recipe today. We're going to do something nice, simple, easy. You're going to be able to use it in a lot of different scenarios. What we're doing is when you wake up and you say, I'm going to make bread. That's the loaf of bread that we're making today. Simple, easy, honey wheat bread that you'll be able to use in almost any situation you can imagine.
Right, and so what does this really mean to make a basic bread? You know, we're using simple techniques, simple ingredients, and we're going to really double down on that and just make this just as easy as possible for you guys to do.
So the first thing we do is we're just going to take and mix our dry ingredients into our bowl and get started. So we're just going to take our whole wheat flour, our all-purpose flour, our yeast, which we're not going to bloom, we're not going to put to the side, nothing like that. We're just going to put it right in to our bowl. We are going to put it on one side of the bowl and the salt on the other side of the bowl, which probably doesn't make a difference, but we'll give it a shot. Aforementioned salt. Then we're going to put this on the mixer. We're going to let it mix a little bit just so that everything is spread out, it's dispersed, it's in one nice homogeneous group before we start adding any other ingredients to it.
Right, and now we know not everybody is lucky enough to have a stand mixer, but this is also something that's real easy to do just in a regular mixing bowl. You can use a wooden spoon, use your hands, super easy.
So once the dry ingredients are kind of mixed up, you've got a nice even mix, you're going to want to add your wet ingredients to the dry ingredients. So we're going to start with 1 cup of milk. You're going to want the milk warmed up to about 110 degrees. No hotter than 120 degrees, because if it is, it'll end up killing your yeast and you won't get any rise whatsoever. And then a little bit of oil. The oil is actually needs to be room temperature, otherwise it's going to be a little bit too thick and it's also going to prevent the bread from rising up as much as you want it. And then of course you're going to add in about your 2 tablespoons of honey. You could certainly use sugar in place of honey. You could even use brown sugar if you wanted. But if you start changing wet ingredients to dry ingredients or vice versa, it may require a little bit more flour in the next step just to make sure that you end up with exactly that consistency that you're looking for.
Alright, so obviously you can see we've switched over to the paddle. We kind of screwed that up. We got a little bit too excited about making bread. We were ready to start kneading this with a dough hook. There you go. So as you can see, our dough is coming together. It's still a little loose for a bread dough. So like Doug was saying, we're going to add a little bit of extra flour. We'll start with 1/4 cup. We'll throw that in there and then we'll see kind of what texture that gives us. Okay, so that's looking pretty close to what we want. So we're going to switch out the paddle now for the dough hook so that we can knead this here with the mixer for a couple of minutes. And then we're going to give the sides of the bowl a quick scrape here just to make sure that we get everything incorporated into our dough. We don't want to leave anything out. Alright, so our dough is looking good. We're going to pull this out of here. I'm going to throw a little bit of flour onto the counter. We're just going to knead this a couple of times just until it's real smooth. So our dough is nice and smooth, so we're going to go ahead and just kind of shape this into a tight ball here. And then we're going to let this rest for about 10 minutes.
So while he's getting that ready, we're going to let that rest. We're also going to make sure that we've got our loaf pan prepared. In this case, we're just using a standard loaf pan. We're going to use a little bit of non-stick spray by getting this already When we're done baking it, it'll come out. We can just dump it out, let it cool outside of the pan so that it doesn't get too soft. It just makes everything easier. So just a little non-stick spray, nice and generous in the pan. Ready to go. Our dough's rested for about 10 minutes now, so it's nice and soft. Everything's just relaxed. The whole purpose of letting it rest for that 10 minutes is as you're kneading it, all the gluten gets really bound up and starts stretching and forming. And then when you let it go and just relax, everything just kind of cools out, mellows. It gets a little bit softer, a little more pliable. Just helps with your overall end result. So now that it's ready, we're going to take it. It doesn't have to be fancy. We're just going to form this into kind of a rough, loaf shape, which is basically just a big tube. And then we're going to take it and we're going to put it into our loaf pan. And we're going to cover that with a piece of cling wrap and let that rise for right around an hour until it's almost double in size.
Our bread's about halfway through the proofing process, so now is a good time. We want to go ahead and preheat our oven. That way the oven has time to warm up and it's ready to go as soon as our bread is ready. So for this one, we're going to go 375 degrees.
Our bread is pretty much proofed. Everything looks nice. You can kind of see if we take this off. You can kind of tell as you push into it, you want it to leave an indent. If it springs back right away, it means everything's still active and it still needs to be proofed a little longer. But for right now, this one looks good. It's obviously doubled in size. We're just going to take it, slide it into our 375 degree oven. Right on the middle rack. We're going to let that bake for about 25 minutes. Kind of keep an eye on it. If it starts to get a little bit too brown on top, you can always tent a little bit of aluminum foil over the top if needed. But otherwise, just let it sit and we'll come back and see what we've got.
So our bread's been in for about 25 minutes and it is looking good. It is ready to come out. Looks great. So we're just going to set that on a cooling rack and we'll let that cool for about 10 minutes before we take it out of the pan.
Our bread is cooled down. It's all ready to go. You can see we have a nice kind of uniform brown crusty texture on the outside. As seems to be required by YouTube standards apparently, we feel obligated to do a nice cross-sectional just to see exactly what we look like. So hopefully we got this right and our crumb texture is on point. Let's see what we have. And we're pretty good. Yep, we're cooked. It's nice and spongy and soft. And
everything is looking good here. All that we've got left to do is to give this a quick taste and see what we've made. This is a super versatile loaf of bread. You could do just about anything with this. All we're gonna do is throw a little bit of butter on there and we'll give it a quick taste.
Oh, this looks just amazing. Get that cut.
Thank you, sir.
Whoa, throw that around. All right, here, man.
All right. Fantastic.
That honey gives it the nice sweetness. You know, the whole wheat flour gives it a lot of flavor, depth, but it's still so soft.
So, yeah. So
light.
Soft and light, and yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it's a good loaf of bread. We highly recommend it. And we hope that you will give this a shot. You know, tag us on Instagram when you do. Let us see what you've made. Show us how you use it, whether it's in some sandwiches, just to go with dinner, some garlic bread, however you want to use it. Just let us know. Show us your successes. If you have any questions, hit us up down below. And we look forward to seeing what you can do with it. Until the next time around, skip the shortcuts, and we'll see you again.
All right.